Hello, everyone. Happy Moonday. So we just settle in here together, lighting a candle and putting on some essential oils that really make me happy. This one is the Moon Chakra Anointing Oil. Just taking a moment to let anyone arrive who is meant to be here today to join in this juicy conversation. And so I'm entering here today this conversation around pleasure. Hello, Allie. So nice to have you here. Thank you for joining me. I'm entering into this conversation on this moon day after my son's graduation over the weekend. And I have family in town in my house, and I'm feeling a little activated, a little stressed out. We don't necessarily communicate or see the world through the same lens, and I'm really feeling it in my body. I'd love to know if any of you feel this as well, that when you are brought back into connection with your family of origin, does it cause you any sort of stress or agitation or just general sense of overwhelm when they've been there for a number of days? With no judgment, it just is what it is, right? So this is where my curiosity begins today, what I'm bringing here to the table today. I'm curious about exploring this word pleasure and exploring how pleasure, first of all, is so misinterpreted and oftentimes has been made adverse to those of us who are in female bodies. If you identify as a woman and have been raised as such, particularly, I'm speaking from my Western culture, living in the Bible Belt, the middle states of the United States, I was raised with the idea that pleasure is something that's only sexual, that just that word, when I would say that word, I would feel in my body a little sensation of crunchiness, that was something that good girls don't experience or feel into. We don't talk about those sorts of things, pleasure. And I have, in my reclamation process, come to the place of recognizing that that is a false narrative that I have been buying into, that I've been exploring. That pleasure is for everyone. And in fact, our animal bodies are designed not only to feel and experience pleasure, but to utilize pleasure as an antidote to help us regulate our nervous systems. When we can step out mentally from the box of equating pleasure only to sexuality and step into the concept of pleasure as simply a physical process that our body is designed for, just as it is designed to experience and express pain, we can then begin to redevelop our relationship to pleasure and bring it back online as the powerful antidote it actually is designed to be, right? So for myself, in deconstructing and dismantling this old narrative, this old way of seeing pleasure, I had to work through and reclaim that word for myself, that pleasure is so many things. And so a personal story, I recently did a mistress class for a friend of mine, her membership group, and I opened the container with a 2.5-minute song where I invited all of the women in the container to begin moving their bodies to dance if they felt like dancing, to anoint themselves with essential oils, to light a candle, to put on a piece of clothing that made them feel good. I basically invited the energy of pussy into the room for 2.5 minutes in a very safe space full of self identified women who were there to grow and learn and explore themselves. And after that 2.5 minutes, I asked the room who was uncomfortable with this exercise. And everyone raised their hand, myself included. Even I, the facilitator, felt incredibly uncomfortable being seen and witnessed as I put on some body oil, as I moved my body, as I really allowed myself to simply enjoy being an animal in a body. And that really piqued my curiosity around this question. If my body is designed not only to feel pain, right? Like my body, your body, every animal body on this planet is designed, if they touch the fire, to pull back because there is pain. If they stub their toe, to analyze and walk more safely. Like our pain is designed to teach us how to protect our body, how to avoid things that are not good for our body. Then on the opposite side of that spectrum, our bodies are also designed to have and experience pleasure as a way to regulate the nervous system, to regulate the body in order to continue to show up in these human lives that are, quite frankly, just fucking difficult. It's challenging being a human. It is really challenging being a human in this day and age where we are learning how to navigate all of this technology, all of this data. It is really difficult being alive in a time where we don't have adequate support to raise our children, where we're moving through socioeconomic changes, where our political systems are beginning to break down and we're actually aware of it in real time. There is a lot of suffering to navigate as human beings. And what if pleasure is actually the universe's gift to us to allow us to be able to navigate these challenging times with grace and ease and with a lowered level of activation? What if pleasure is actually the antidote that allows us to work through our own inherited traumas so that we can begin to show up in our lives from a more grounded, rooted, and centered place? Then why and I speak for myself and for the clients that I have worked with. I'm now up in the thousands of women that I have sat with and helped navigate their stories. And a major component with most of my clients has been this inability to truly connect in with their own sense of pleasure. That most of us contain this narrative that pleasure is only connected to sexuality, and therefore, if we want to be a good person and a good woman, then we don't connect in with pleasure unless it's in these particular places. And yet, when I watch my dog or my cat, they are shameless in their ability to roll around on the floor and request that I rub their bodies and scratch them and offer them very innocent and delightful pleasure. My children, when they were young, were the same way. When I was young, I was the same way. When you were young, you were the same way. Before the age of 2, we all knew that we're just human animals and that these bodies were meant to be moved and used and worked with in ways that brought us pleasure. And I believe in great mystery and Mother Nature and the grand design of everything. I believe that we would not have been given this access to pleasure if it was not, in fact, the way that our human bodies are designed to operate. Why are we still actively complicit in a social structure that wants us to focus on negativity and suffering instead of giving us the permission to access our own physical pleasure and utilize it as a primary way of regulating our nervous system in a time when, whether we want to admit it or not, we are all actively agitated and constantly, mm, whether it's conscious and in the forefront, our bodies are constantly navigating, being activated, and uh, microaggressions of all the technology that we are experiencing. Like, I'm on this phone and this laptop right now doing this thing, and I'm doing it because it's part of my job. But I also know that my eyes are having some issues with the blue light. I know that my body is very slowly tensing up the, the more time I spend in front of a screen. Like, I'm aware of all these things. I push them aside to do what I need to do. And then I go outside and I tend to myself. But my body has not caught up evolutionarily to be with all of the things that we put in front of it every single day. My brain is completely different from my children's brains who have been raised with screens from a much younger age. Their brains operate much differently than mine do, and their ability to be with different stimulus is quite different than my own. And what if my ability to tap into pleasure could actually be the key to my own evolution and my own ability to be with life as it is in this day and age? And what if that's the key for you too? What if we all have this possibility and the only thing preventing us from utilizing it is this narrative, this story that we've all been gifted that says we shouldn't engage in pleasure unless we are in the bedroom, that it's something dirty or it is something that makes us less than, or it is something that creates hedonism or dumbs us down, makes us less intelligent, whatever. Why do we as a society have a story that tells us the wisdom of the body is less than the wisdom of the intellectual mind? I feel like this is part of undoing our domestication. We are being invited collectively into embodiment. We are being invited into the truth that our brain smarts are not the only wisdom that we hold. We have emotional intelligence. We have body intelligence. We have hive mind, where we can tap into a much greater intelligence collectively than any of us could singly do on our own. If we allowed ourselves to step into our sovereignty, into our power, and trust that we each have a piece of the puzzle that we can begin putting together. So, this is my invitation this week for myself and for each one of you that chooses to take in this transmission. How can we invite in more pleasure on a daily basis in ways that are easy to bring in ways that are available, like lighting this candle before I sit down at the computer and giving myself some of the natural elements around me, like putting on this beautiful essential oil and really allowing myself to take it in, really allowing myself to be with my body and be with what brings her pleasure. Having flowers around, getting sun on our bodies every day, and not doing it because it's good for me or because it's on the to-do list, but actively inviting in these small, easy to do things in our daily environment and around our body that invites in and actively cultivates the element of pleasure. Just actively cultivating an element of pleasure because you can, because you want to, because it feels good, because it regulates your nervous system, because it allows you to be with the challenges of being a human. And you deserve to have whatever tools are available so that you can enjoy your life and have satisfaction in your day to day. Yeah, that feels like the transmission for this moon day. I hope that it serves you well. I hope that you have everything that you need. Take good care. And for you, Allie, the brands I would recommend, the only one I can really recommend is doTERRA, because I know the way that they make it is really good. I also will use Mountain Rose Herbs in America, but I'm not sure what is available in the UK. Thank you so much for popping in. I hope that you get your room clean, and I will see you again next Moonday.